Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Vishnavad Paramahansa Parivajacharya Stadisisamad His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki, Shri Shri Nitai Gora Sundar Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadeshtarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyas cha kripa sindubhya evacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So Hare Krishna, devotees of the Lord, how nice to be with you. So today we understand is Hanuman Jayanti, at least, it's celebrated like that. And actually every year, just like Shivaratri, we have a program focusing on Lord Shiva as a devotee, not just Lord Shiva as a popular demigod, but really very specifically and in a very focused way on Lord Shiva as a devotee. So, of course, Hanuman, well, there are people who take him to be like a demigod, actually. But generally, he's known as a devotee, and a very great devotee of Lord Ram. So let's just talk some things about Sri Hanuman. Sri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai. Right, let's begin. Well, let's begin at the beginning. The appearance of Hanuman. So what happened? You know, in Krishna consciousness, we have many long stories. And this is one of them. This is a long story, the appearance of Hanuman. But to keep it short but sweet as much as possible, let us say that strictly speaking, Hanuman is the son of Lord Shiva and Parvati. Yes. However, having said that, there are a few sort of considerations, shall we say. So what happened was that Lord Shiva and Parvati, they were enjoying some conjugal pastimes at Kailash, and like that, enjoying each other's company. And so they saw a monkey. They saw a monkey, and somehow they became sort of fascinated, attracted by this monkey, and they assumed the forms of monkeys because they're great mystical personalities. They can do such things. Hare Krishna, everyone. ISKCON Port Elizabeth Ki Jai. They can do these things, take different forms and great mystical powers. So they did that. And in the process, while they're now associating in conjugal pastimes together in the forms of monkeys, they conceived a child. And just after that, just immediately, like moments after that, then Parvati became very anxious, and she said, look, we are going to have a child who is a monkey. And I don't want that. I've already got a child who has the head of an elephant. That's bad enough. But a monkey, no, I don't want to have this child. I don't want to have this child. I will not have this child. And you must do something about it, Lord Shiva. You must do something about it. You must arrange for someone else to take this child. So, demigods, they can just do all sorts of things. They can really do all sorts of things. So what Lord Shiva did, he gave the embryo to Vayu. Because Lord Shiva, he's one of the predominating demigods. He's very big. He and Lord Brahma, and of course Lord Vishnu is in his own category, seeing he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, with Lord Vishnu, they're the highest of all the demigods. And just to give a kind of a perspective, Lord Brahma lives for, 33 trillion, 40 billion, or how many trillion? 317 trillion, or 311 trillion, 40 billion years, give or take a few billion or so. Doesn't really matter when you get to that scale. But the next level down is headed by Lord Indra. And in one day of Lord Brahma, Lord Brahma lives for 100 of his years, and each of his years is 365 of his days. Yeah. And as Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyad Brahmano Vidu, that one of Lord Brahma's days is made up of Sahasra Yuga, 1,000 cycles of the 4 yugas. Yeah, one of his days of Lord Brahma, and means also of Lord Shiva. And in one of those days, there are 13 manus, 13 live. Yeah, the lifetimes of 13 manus. And Indra and the other regular demigods, they live for the lifetime of one Manu. Yeah, basically. So there are 13 Indras and Surya and Agni and so on, the other well-known demigods, in one day of Brahma. So just see the scale, in the case of Lord Shiva too, 311 trillion, 40 billion years. But in one of his days, there are 13 Indras and Chandras and these other demigods. So they're really on a different scale altogether. And that shows the relationship in terms of the degrees of power they have. So in other words, Lord Shiva is far more powerful, not even hundreds of times, thousands of times, thousands and thousands of times more powerful than even Lord Indra, who's the king of the rest of the demigods. So, therefore, Lord Shiva, when he's caught in this situation, they've conceived a child in the forms of monkeys. They're going to give birth. She is going to give birth to a monkey. She does not want that. In fact, not just she does not want, she is not going to do that. And he has to sort it out. Yeah. So, Lord Shiva, therefore, he was now looking for someone to take the embryo without actually, really aborting the child and killing the child. They could remove an embryo from a mother's womb and place it elsewhere, and the embryo would continue developing and the child would be born. So that's what they did. The embryo of Hanuman was removed from the womb of Parvati. And now Shiva's trying to figure out who can take this. And he thought of the other demigods, because, this is a special child. This is not just some child, very, very special child. And only some very powerful, great person will be able to take the embryo and look after the embryo and see that the child is born. So, Vayu owed Lord Shiva a favor. And so Lord Shiva approached Vayu and asked him, or told him, I want you to take this embryo, okay? And you deal with it. And you look after this embryo, and in due course, you can find a suitable lady and give the embryo to her, and she will somehow or other, take the embryo inside and then give birth. This is what happened. So Vayu took the embryo, and Vayu was looking after the embryo. But he couldn't, he's not a woman, he couldn't give birth to the embryo. So he approached a lady named, what was her name? Anjana. Yeah, Anjana, who was the wife of, Catering. Hey, some things. Because not so many people know this, things like that. Yeah, Catering. His wife was Anjana, and Anjana was actually a demigoddess who was cursed by Brihaspati to take the form of a monkey. So she in the form of a monkey, but she's still like a demigoddess. And she became the wife of Kateri, who was the king of the monkeys, just like king of the celestial monkeys. So he approached her. Can you please take this embryo and bring this embryo to the point of birth and give birth? Anjana. And she agreed. She accepted the embryo. And she gave birth to Hanuman, who, he's the son of Lord Shiva and Parvati. He's also, you can say, and they do say, He's also the son of Vayu. We explained, it's all pretty extraordinary, but that's how he's recognized. He's definitely recognized as being the son of Vayu because he is the brother of who? Sorry? Bhima, who is also the son of Vayu. They're brothers. Yeah, they're recognized as brothers. So, yes, so she gave birth to Hanuman. And she's special because she's a demigoddess. And he's special because he's the son of Shiva and the son of Vayu. Yeah, like this. And in this way, Hanuman was born. But, really a very, very special personality. As a child, Hanuman was a real character. He was a real character. There's one very famous story, many of you I'm sure are familiar with it, that Hanuman, as is the case with some children, he was always hungry. He was just always hungry, just permanently hungry, and always sort of bothering his mother that I want something to eat. I want something. Well, okay, then eat this. And some minutes later, well, I'm hungry again. Oh, we'll eat something else. And a few minutes later, well, I'm hungry again. And it got a bit much for Anjana. And so Anjana told him, listen, whenever you get hungry, just eat some fruit, okay? Because they're living in the forest, and there's just loads of fruit around. There's just fruit everywhere. Just whenever you get hungry, just eat some fruit. And Hanuman said, "What do you mean fruit? What's that?" And Anjana said, anything that's round and red or yellow or like that, that's fruit. Just eat it. And Hanuman said, oh, okay, anything round and red, yellow, like that, I'll just eat it. That's fruit. So Hanuman became hungry. He became hungry. He's looking around for some fruit, and he saw in the sky the sun, which is round and sort of, whatever, yellow, something like that. And Hanuman thought, right, that's it. Look at that fruit. That looks really good. So Hanuman, like we said, he's super powerful. He's the son of Lord Shiva, the son of Vayu. He's got great superhuman power. So he just flew and grabbed the sun and put it in his mouth. And as he's doing this, Rahu came. Rahu came because Rahu likes to attack the sun and attack the moon. His idea really is to eat them. Yeah, and that's what we call eclipse. So Rahu saw that here's this monkey, and he's just putting the sun into his mouth. And Rahu thought, that's no good, that's for me. You can't do that. That's what I want to eat. So Rahu came to try and stop Hanuman, and Hanuman grabbed him and put him in his mouth too. Yeah. And of course now the sun is in Hanuman's mouth. And Hanuman is so powerful, he doesn't, get burnt up. The sun is in his mouth. The universe became dark. And Indra was having a meeting of his administrative demigod team. So they're having a meeting. Suddenly everything is just in darkness. So Indra pulled out his Vajra, his thunderbolt, which has some lighting power. And he thought, well, whatever has happened, the sun was up there. The sun moves across the sky, of course. Sun was up there, suddenly it disappeared. So someone must have got the sun somehow. I'm going to throw my thunderbolt up there and get whoever has got the sun up there. So he hurled his thunderbolt, and his thunderbolt hit Hanuman in the mouth and broke one of his teeth, or damaged his jaw. It hurt him. And therefore Hanuman, because actually Hanuman's name was Anjaneya, the son of Anjana. But now he became known as Hanuman because Hanuman means he whose jaw is damaged. That's what Hanuman means. Hanu means the jaw, like the jawbone. Hanu. Yeah, so this is how he got the name Hanuman. So Hanuman, he then grabbed the thunderbolt and put the thunderbolt in his mouth. I mean, he's a big prasad man, real devotee. And so he took them home, and he was about to eat them at home. But then the demigods came. All the demigods came, and they asked him, could you please give us the sun back? And Rahu, well, we don't mind, we're not worried about Rahu so much, but can you give Lord Indra his Vajra back, please? His thunderbolt? And Hanuman said, give you the sun back, but I'm hungry. And give you the thunderbolt back. You hurt me with that. I'm not going to give it back. So then a negotiation started. And different of the demigods, even Lord Brahma was there. Lord Brahma took all the demigods there to negotiate with Hanuman. And Lord Brahma said, listen, I give you the benediction. You will live as long as me. Will you give us the sun back? And Hanuman said, no. But he got the benediction. Then Agni said, I give you the benediction. Fire will not be able to burn you. This became very important as time went on later. Fire, because Agni is the demigod of fire, fire will not be able to burn you. And Indra, and fire will not be able to burn you. Will you give us the sun back? No. Then Indra came and said, I bless you. You will become as famous as me. Will you give us the sun back? Well, no. He's sort of, coming around a little bit. Then Vayu came, and Vayu said, I give you the blessing. You will be as fast as me, as fast as the wind. You'll be as fast as me. Will you give us the sun back? Well, no. And then Lord Brahma's thinking, what does he want? What, if we offer it to him, what would he feel so happy with that he'll then give us the sun back? So Lord Brahma, among his many powers, he is telepathic. Anyone telepathic here? Can you tune in to people's thoughts? Lord Brahma can. And so Lord Brahma tuned in to Hanuman's thinking, and then he saw, what is he thinking about? What was he thinking about? Fruit. Yeah, he's thinking about fruit. So then Brahma spoke to Brihaspati, the priest of the demigods. And Brihaspati told him, I will give you all the fruit in this universe. I'll give you all the fruit. And I'll give you the knowledge of Ayurveda, by which you will understand every different fruit and what are the powers, the characteristics of each and every type of fruit. And not just the fruit, but the trees, the plants, and all the medicinal qualities and nutritional qualities of all these things. Any plant, anything which is growing in the whole creation, you'll know it. And what is the use of it? What are the effects of these things? Will you give us the sun back? And Hanuman was like, well, I don't know. Well, he's really thinking about it. And then Dhanvantari said, I give you the blessing. Whenever you put any type of medicine on anyone, that person, if they're not dead, their lives will be saved. Even if they're dead, they'll come back to life. You just give them any medicine, anything. Will you give us the sun back? And then Hanuman said, oh, all right. So then he opened his mouth and he gave them the sun back. So, yeah, he was a real character, though, Hanuman. I mean, he's always a real character. There's a famous story, Hanuman, a little later on, just a little later on, he's still a child. He was very mischievous. He liked to, sort of tease people, you could say. Tease people, put them into difficulty, into anxiety, and then solve the problem. But he liked to tease people and put them into anxiety a bit. So one day, he caught a tiger, which for him is just nothing. And he caught an elephant, which is also just nothing for Hanuman. And there down the road was one very strict sage, was living in a grass hut. And the grass hut, it had no windows, but it had a front door and it had a back door. And Hanuman, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Sundar Ki Jai. So Hanuman tied up the tiger right by the front door. Just right there. And he tied the elephant right by the back door. And he knew that this sage, he's very strict, he's very regulated, he's just like a paka Brahmin. So every morning he gets up at a certain time, and he immediately gets up and he goes out and passes stool and takes bath in the river and comes back every morning. That's what he does. Just like clockwork. So he tied these animals up just before the sage he knew what time the sage would be getting up. So the sage got up and took his gamsha and other bathing equipments, opened the front door. There's a tiger. Whoa! Bang, he closed the front door. Wow. Lucky escape. I'm going to go out the back door. Opened the back door. There's an elephant. And he had slammed the back door closed. Now he just couldn't get out. And, his body worked in such a way that he got up, he had to go and pass stool. So he's there and he's sort of trying to hold on, but he couldn't hold on. So he opened the front door just a little bit. Tiger's still there, but there's Hanuman in the tree, and Hanuman is laughing because Hanuman thinks this is good fun. So the sage shouted at Hanuman, "You get rid of these animals." So Hanuman sent the tiger and elephant away. And then the sage told him, "You think you're clever, don't you? You do things like this. Well, you must not do this again." And the sage cursed him. "I curse you. You have great power." Because the sage knew who he was. "You have great power. But my curse is, you forget your power. Just forget it and just become like an ordinary monkey." And Hanuman apologized and begged forgiveness like that. "And please let me have my power. I'll only do good things with it. And the sage said, all right. In the future, when you are reminded of your power, then you'll just realize, that you have the powers. In other words, he still had them, but he just forgot. And so he would never try to use them for quite some years. He was living like a regular monkey, even though he had these, like the powers of a great demigod. But Hanuman, he was still a character. He was still a character. And Hanuman, he really liked to sing. And actually, he was a very good singer. And he would sing, and his fame as a singer became well known. And Narada Muni heard that this Hanuman is a really, really, really good singer. So Narada Muni came one day. And came with his veena. And Narada Muni told Hanuman, he said, I've heard you're such a good singer. I'd really appreciate it if you could sing for me. Could you please do that? And Hanuman said, well, I don't know. I don't really want to. And Narada Muni appealed to him, please sing for me. I've heard so much about it. I'm a singer too, and a musician. Please sing for me. And so Hanuman said, all right. Just sit down and I'll sing. So Narada Muni sat down and put his veena on a rock, which was just there. Put the veena on this rock. And Hanuman started singing. And the thing was, Hanuman was such a singer, amazing singer. You think, who's the best singer in your party? Is it Harinamananda? It is. It's Harinamananda. I mean, even though he's a very good singer, you were singing yesterday, right? Weren't you? For a while? Yeah. I was listening. He's a really good singer. Harinamananda, that's why he's got the name. But Hanuman, when Hanuman sings, sometimes rocks melt. Did any of you see, did a rock ever melt when he was singing? Not yet. Still working on it. Okay, keep at it. You'll get there. So Hanuman was singing, and Narada Muni's just completely in disbelief. But he didn't notice that the rock that his veena was on was melting. And the veena sank into the rock. And Narada Muni didn't notice. But then somehow he just turned around and he saw, what is this? And he said to Hanuman, stop singing. Well, look what's happening. And Hanuman was shocked. Oh, okay. He stopped singing. But when he stopped singing, the rock stopped melting, and it again became rock. And now the veena had sunk into it, and now it's encased in the rock. And Narada Muni tries to get the veena, but it's stuck in the rock. And Narada said, Hanuman, could you sing again, please? So I can get my veena back. And Hanuman said, what? First you begged me to sing. I didn't want to sing. You begged me, so I sang. Then you shout at me and tell me, stop singing. And I stopped. And now you just want me to sing again. What is this? Forget it. And Hanuman just walked away. He just walked away in the direction of their sort of like palace, or very big, like a mansion, something like that, where they were living. And so he walked off there, and Narada Muni's following him, saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you, but could you please sing again? Please. And Hanuman's just, no, don't you treat me like that. And they went into the house, and Narada Muni's following Hanuman. And Hanuman went into one room. Narada Muni followed him, begging. So Hanuman went into the next room. And Narada Muni followed him into that room. And Hanuman went into the next room. And Narada Muni followed him into the next room. And then upstairs and around all the rooms. And Narada Muni is just following and following and following Hanuman. And then Anjana came and said, Hanuman, what are you doing, you naughty monkey? This is Narada Muni. He's a great saint. You don't treat a saint like this. If he wants you to sing, you sing. That's an order. And Hanuman said, yes, it's okay. I'm going to sing again. But the thing is, I know he's such a great saint. So I brought him into the house and into every room in the house, so we could have the dust of his lotus feet right through our house. And now I'm going to go out and sing again, and he can get his veena back. So this was Hanuman, a real character. What? A real character. So then Hanuman, you could say Hanuman grew up to become one of the, not the king of the monkeys, but one of the leaders of the whole monkey race on this planet. And of course, Hanuman speaks. He speaks in perfect Sanskrit. And then Hanuman, of course, Hanuman is famous for his relationship with Lord Ram. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai. So, but for many years he did not meet Lord Ram. He only met Lord Ram the day Sita was kidnapped. That was when they met. So Hanuman had heard of Lord Ram. He was so happy to meet him. And he offered that we will help you to get your wife back. You can depend on us. We know the area. We'll get her back. We'll find out. To start off, we'll find out where she is. And then, we can see what's the best way to get her back. But Lord Ram was just so overwhelmed, so incredibly overwhelmed with the loss of Sita, that when Hanuman asked him, Hanuman said, I've never seen Mother Sita. Can you please describe her? Lord Ram just couldn't. So then Hanuman asked Lakshman, please tell us, what does Sita look like? And we'll find her. We'll find her. So Hanuman asked Lakshman, please describe her so we can locate her, we can recognize her. And Lakshman gave very interesting answer. I don't know what she looks like. And Hanuman said, no, Lakshman, I mean Sita, your sister-in-law. You've been, because this is right at the end of the exile. And they've been together for almost 14 years, 24 hours a day. And Hanuman said, no, I mean Sita, your sister-in-law, the wife of Ram. Tell us what she looks like. And Lakshman said, I don't know what she looks like. And Hanuman said, look, please, don't joke with me. I'm trying to help you. Please tell me, what does she look like? And Lakshman said, I don't know. I've never looked above her feet. Yeah. And then he gave very beautiful description of the lotus feet of Sita with all the markings, because underneath on the soles of her feet there are different markings in the actual foot. And this was one of the, along with the ring that Lord Ram gave, which Sita then identified, that this is the ring of my husband Ram. But Hanuman was able to understand when he finally met Sita. He was able to understand, this is Sita. Not just because she recognized the ring, which is not so difficult, but he looked at her feet and he saw the markings under her feet. And, you can't change the markings under your feet. And he understood, this is Sita. This is definitely Sita. So then, then it was understood. They met Jatayu, and Jatayu was dying, having tried to fight with Ravana but unsuccessfully, and now he's just dying because Ravana overpowered him. And so Jatayu told them that it was Ravana who stole her. And so they're going to Lanka. They're going to Lanka. So now the thing is, they had to jump. Someone had to jump to Lanka to find her. Is she really there? And where is she in Lanka? And then they could make a plan how to rescue her. So, someone had to jump over. But the problem was, it was 100 yojanas, means about 800 miles, or, something, 1,200 kilometers, something like that. It's really a long way. And so they asked for volunteers. Who can jump 100 yojanas? And one monkey said, well, I can jump 10, but not more. And another one said, I can jump 20, but not 100. And Angada, who's another leader of the monkeys, Angada said, I can jump 100 yojanas, but I would not be able to jump back. And Jambavan, and don't forget, Hanuman thinks he's an ordinary monkey. He's a good singer, but in terms of real Shakti, real power, he's just like an ordinary monkey as far as he's concerned. And he's been living like that. So then Jambavan the bear, king of the bears, Riksaraj, he said, actually, Hanuman can do it. Because Jambavan, he knew the story. He knew what had happened to Hanuman, how he'd been cursed. Actually, Jambavan is very special personality. He's a bear, but he got the blessing. Whenever there is an avatar, you will be able to go and associate with the avatar. So he knows, and you'll live as long as Lord Brahma, the whole length of the creation. So he knows all the avatars personally, and he's seen all their pastimes, and all these incredible things, just again and again and again and again and again. He's seen it all, literally. And he's now getting a little old. And he was in this habit. He would just remember this avatar, what he did. Wow, that was amazing. And then another avatar, what he did. Wow, that was amazing too. And so Jambavan, he would just walk around saying, what next? What am I going to see next? And he would talk to himself. What next? What next? And the monkeys would ask him, what did you say? What are you talking about? And Jambavan would say, no, don't worry, I'm an old bear. I just talk to myself. But he'd carry on just walking, saying, thinking, remembering, saying, wow, what next? So he knew, and Jambavan said, Hanuman can do it. And Hanuman had not offered to do it because he thought that he couldn't do it, because he thought he's just an ordinary monkey. But then when Jambavan reminded him, and then Jambavan started glorifying Hanuman and glorifying his power, then Hanuman remembered, oh yeah, that's right. This power, that power, so many different powers. And again he remembered, yeah, I can do all these things. And then he volunteered, sure, I'll jump over. And then at the end, I'll jump back. No problem. So Hanuman jumped. And it's a bit, again, of a long story. On the way, he met various, different people, mainly demons, but not all demons, but mainly demons who tried to stop him. The first one was a snake demon, Sarasa, who stopped him and said, I got a benediction from Lord Brahma that if someone wants to jump to Lanka, they have to pass through my mouth. And if they don't pass through my mouth, they will not be able to reach Lanka. So you have to pass through my mouth. So Hanuman realized, I got to do something really special here. So Hanuman expanded and grew and grew. And as he grew, she grew. And they're both growing and growing. And her mouth is growing. And then suddenly Hanuman reduced his size to tiny size and flew through her mouth and came out the other side and said, "See, I made it." So then he was able to carry on. So then another demoness came, and she wanted to swallow him. She opened her mouth wide. Hanuman flew into her mouth and flew right through her head and out the other side. And that was the end of her. Then, and actually she was a demigoddess who was cursed. And now that she's been killed like that, she was freed from the curse and she became liberated. Then the third one was a Rakshasa, a woman, another woman, a Rakshasa. And she had a blessing, a benediction. She could catch anyone by holding on to their shadow. Just get hold of the shadow and she'd catch the person. So she caught Hanuman's shadow, and Hanuman suddenly found that he's being pulled back, even though, he's meant to be flying forward. So she grabbed his shadow, pulled him back, and said, I'm going to eat you. And she put him in her mouth. Hanuman expanded his body, and her head exploded. And that was the end of her. So I guess anyway, that's what happened. So then Hanuman landed on Lanka, and so now he's looking around for Sita, and somehow, there was a couple of other things that happened, but I think you get the idea. Somehow he found out, I can't remember exactly how he found out, she is in the Ashok Grove. So Hanuman went to the Ashok Grove, and sure enough, there was Sita. And he went up and spoke to her, and actually what had happened, Ravana had just told her that day, I give you 1 month to agree to become my wife willingly. I give you 1 month. After 1 month, if you refuse, I will eat you for breakfast. And he meant it, because he's Rakshasa, he's cannibal, eater of human beings. Then I'll eat you for breakfast. But she, of course, she would not agree at all. So Hanuman went there, and she became anxious. He said, I've been sent by Ram. And she said, well, how do I know? And he showed her the ring. and then she accepted, and she accepted. So Hanuman's basically sort of achieved his goal, really, which was just to locate Sita. Now he's got to jump back. But he thought, before I go, let me have some fun. Because he's a monkey. And you know where the term monkey business has come? Yeah, that monkeys are very mischievous. So Hanuman thought, let me have some fun. And he started smashing up the Ashok grove. And Ravan sent one of his ministers to see what is going on in the Ashok grove. So the minister came down and saw it's a monkey. And the minister said to Hanuman, what do you think you're doing? Who do you think you are? And yes, another little point, that Hanuman was wondering, is this really Sita? And Sita gave him a hair ornament, which Hanuman knew about, a special hair ornament she'd been given by Ram, and then he accepted that she's Sita. So the minister came and started shouting at Hanuman, what do you think you're doing? Who are you? And Hanuman answered, I am the servant of Ram. And the minister says, Ram, who's he? He's nothing. And started criticizing Lord Ram. And I tell you what, in front of Hanuman, to criticize Lord Ram, that's a fatal error. You don't do that. So as it happened, so this minister now, he had a big mouth, literally. And he's shouting at Hanuman and criticizing Lord Ram. And then a very special thing happened. Hanuman had jumped over, we talked a little bit about that. Then he looked around and then he found Sita and spoke with Sita. And it all took time. And he had not used the bathroom for 6 or 7 hours. And I think you must know, 6 or 7 hours, that's really a long time. And he just really, he was holding on, but he just had to urinate. And he's just holding on and just feeling, I just got to let it go. And this man's just criticizing and with his big mouth. And then Hanuman urinated in his mouth. Sri Hanuman Ki. And then, there's some more, but when he got back, there's some more. But when he did get back eventually, and Lord Ram, he explained to Lord Ram, yes, she's there, and in this place, and the sort of the layout of the place. And Lord Ram asked, well, what did you do? You were away for a long time. And Hanuman said, well, I met this minister, and he was criticizing you, and I urinated in his mouth. And Lord Ram said, Hanuman, you shouldn't have done that. He's a Kshatriya. You should have fought with him. Why'd you do that? That's terrible. people will think badly of me that one of my assistants does things like this. And Hanuman said, no, don't worry about it. Just if people say that, oh, that was really bad, just tell them that Hanuman's a monkey, and monkeys do things like that. And they'll understand. But anyway, so then the minister came running back to Ravana and said, yeah, I was down there. And Ravana is asking, well, who's smashing the place up? And the minister said, yeah, it's a monkey. And Ravana said, a monkey? What do you mean, a monkey? And why didn't you just kill him? And the minister said, well, he urinated in my mouth. So then Ravana called for another one of his demon associates, Jambumali. Jambumali lived in like a small lake of wine. He really liked drinking wine. So instead of just giving him, some dozen bottles of wine, they just put him in this little lake of wine. And he would just roll over, drink some wine, go back to sleep. Wake up, roll over, drink some more wine, and go back to sleep. So this is what they did. So Ravana sent Jambumali, and Jambumali tried to confront Hanuman. But Hanuman started hurling rocks at him. And Jambumali grew. These people, like we already talked about a few of them, they have these mystical powers. They can just grow and grow and grow. So Jambumali grew, and Hanuman grew. And Jambumali grew, and Hanuman grew. And until Jambumali thought that I'm higher than him, I'm taller than him. But in front of his face was this round thing, and sort of with, which was on something, and there was something going up above the round thing. And Jambumali's looking around, where's Hanuman? And Hanuman from way up said, Jambumali, that's my kneecap. So Hanuman, so then they both came down and accepted their regular size forms. And Hanuman said, look, I want to do something for you. I want to help you. I want to teach you a new mantra. And Jambumali said, mantra, what do you mean? And Hanuman said, yeah, just say this after me, Ram. And Jambumali got really angry. So then Hanuman put his one finger in the navel of Jambumali and spun him around, and all his innards came out. And that was the end of Jambumali. So then when Ravana heard about that, he sent Indrajit, his son, very powerful. Indrajit has the rope of Brahma. So he threw this rope at Hanuman, and Hanuman felt, it is the rope of Lord Brahma. I must respect it. So he allowed himself to be tied with the rope of Lord Brahma. Anyway, it's a long story, devotees, and we've only got about another 3 minutes or 4 minutes to go. I mean, we could go for a while. But let me just close by telling you 2 little stories. At the end, when Ravana's been killed, Sita's been rescued, they've returned to Ayodhya. They've been back in Ayodhya for a few days. A few days. And Mother Sita is standing somewhere, and Hanuman came up to her. And she, while they were in exile, Sita had not been wearing sindoor in her parting. It was not possible. But now, back in Ayodhya, she's wearing sindoor, the red. And Hanuman saw the sindoor in her parting. And he wondered, what is this stuff? And he asked, what's that? Did you hit your head? And Sita said, no, it's sindoor. I wear it for Ram. It's good for Ram, because that's why ladies wear it. It's good for the husband. So it's good for Ram. And Hanuman said, really, it's good for Ram? Wow, that's interesting. And off he went. And then Lord Ram came and speaking with Sita there. Oh, Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi, Sri Nitai Gaura Sundar Ki Jai. Okay, well, let me just finish this story. So Ram, Sita, they're speaking. Suddenly, this red figure, just red from head to toe, covered in sindoor, just jumped out. Jai Siya Ram. And they realized, well, it's Hanuman. And Lord Ram said, Hanuman, what happened to you? You're covered in sindoor. And Hanuman said, yeah. Well, Sita told me she just wears a little bit in her parting, and it's really good for you. And I just want the best for you. So I'm just going to keep myself covered in sindoor. And Lord Ram said, it's okay, Hanuman, just relax. You don't need to do that. But therefore, in India, you find many little roadside shrines and temples where Hanuman is red or orange like that, commemorating that pastime. And just the very last thing, that after the battle, Lord Ram, or maybe when they got back, Lord Ram was rewarding everyone, giving everyone gifts, all the monkeys, the bears who had fought for him, giving them gifts and different things. And Hanuman was right at the end of the line. Then finally Hanuman came up, the last one, and Lord Ram thought, let me test him. So Lord Ram told Hanuman, everything's finished. I got nothing left. Sorry, that's all. No more. I gave away all the money, the jewelry, and it's all gone. Sorry about that. And Hanuman said, actually, no, I didn't want anything like that. I don't want anything like that. What I want from you is just the very smallest thing. I just want the smallest, simplest thing. That'll be fine for me. And Lord Ram is puzzled and asks, well, what do you want? And Hanuman said, I just want your name. That's all. Ram. Just give me your name. Ram. Because everything is included in your name. So you please give me your name. And so Lord Ram gave him his name. And Hanuman is known, he just chants, Ram, Ram, Ram. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. Sri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki. Okay, we can have kirtan for the arati.